All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Bankroll Blitz. I'm Brad Thomas here with special guest prop bet guy Doug. First and foremost, thank you for joining the show. How was your Christmas, your holiday break so far?
Thanks for having me, Brad. No, it's been good so far. Can't complain. Was in some nice weather for a few days, and now I'm back up north in the cold in Jersey, like everyone else. But been good to spend time with some family. How about you?
Yeah, mine was pretty good. We did the take the newborn to three different Christmas celebrations. So, as you can imagine, I'm pretty tired, but I will say, you got a taste of the good life having a warm holiday season. I absolutely love it. I'm wearing short sleeves right now in a bathing suit. I pretty much wear my bathing suit year round, which is
Love
one of my
that.
favorite things. And we have a heated pool at my condo, which it's nothing like wearing a Christmas hat and jumping in a pool. It's a great feeling.
I'm with you, man. I'm in a t-shirt and shorts too, but I got to crank up the heat to do it. So yeah.
Well, let's get into this. And then, as everyone knows, that Josh is normally on the show. He's actually dealing with a cold right now. So prayers out to him that he heals up and he'll be on the next one. But absolutely love that you're on here. I'm going to start mine off once I find where my plays just disappeared to. I got a brand new computer and it has this massive monitor and every play gets lost. But here we go. All right. So I did a 6-point teaser. As you guys know, I generally like to do the teasers closer to that 8 to 9 point range. Stay away from sweetheart teasers. I went with my first leg is 49ers minus 6.5 against the Commanders. The Commanders have been absolutely dreadful this season, and I thought we would see a little bit more from them defensively. They made the defensive changes, and it was one of those weird situations where it was addition by subtraction early on after those trades. But when you don't have the same caliber players playing on that line, you're not going to be as good. I think the 49ers have an opportunity to absolutely blow the doors off the Commanders. 31st in defensive DVOA, 32nd in pass defensive DVOA, which the 49ers love. We think about this pretty frequently, how we fade the Commanders. The Commanders make guys like like Quentin Johnson look good. And why I say Quentin Johnson is because Quentin Johnson is not really a guy that we talk about often. Why? He drops the ball. But I have another play from that game that I'm going to talk about later. The second leg of this teaser, I went with Saints +8 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it kills me. It absolutely kills me to bet against my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs being a 2.5 point favorite against the Saints, a team that absolutely destroys us, even when we have Tom Brady. Shout out to Baker Mayfield, but he's not a 10-point or a multi-score covering quarterback. His numbers are phenomenal. I also am terrified if the Bucs get up by 10 late in this game. I still think the Saints are live. If you guys have watched the Saints so far this season, the Bucs so far this season, it's like Todd Bowles becomes ultra conservative. And it didn't used to be that way when he was as a defensive coordinator. He would actually crank up the pressure later in games, and that's really what you wanted to see out of Todd Bowles. So I think the Saints at +8.5 was really nice. Another one that I went on, and I'm terrified of this play, but I went with it because I'm trusting Jordan Love in here, and that's Packers +7.5 against the Vikings. The Packers are one of those teams where they are boom or bust, and they have been so far this season. But I trust what Jordan Love is doing. He's the kind of guy who, if they're not winning, they're going to stay in games. And then the Vikings, I think that the Vikings, they have excelled defensively, but offensively with Nick Mullins, yes, he's a gunslinger. Not really a team that I want to be backing to win by multiple scores. Even when they're playing against the Bengals, I think there was some good cheese, to put on your crackers if you're a live better there. So those three legs are 49ers -6.5, Saints +8.5, and Packers +7.5. And if you guys notice, I got through all of the key numbers. I got through the 7 with the Niners. I got through the 7 with the Packers, and I got through the 7 as well with the Saints. That's +150 on the odds there.
Yeah, I'm not traditionally a teaser guy, but I love you sold me on all three spots. Look, the Commanders look cooked last week. I know they brought in Brissett and he kind of lit up the Jets a little bit, but that's the Jets. This is the 49ers. It's kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. So I kind of expect, 2-3 touchdown victory for the 49ers. Nice bounce back spot after the Ravens game. The Bucks, I agree with you. I think Baker, you being on the Saints side, I agree that it's going to be a close game. Baker's been great, but the Bucks haven't put the pedal to the metal when they need to. They allow teams to come back, and then Baker does his thing in the fourth quarter, to win it. So I definitely see that being more of a one-score game there. And then the last one, the Packers. I mean, look, the Vikings turning to Jaron Hall. They lost TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
Jefferson's been in and out of the lineup. I mean, yes, their defense is great, but again, Jordan Love he's exceeded expectations the second half of the season. I do think, he at the least keeps that game relatively close if the Packers don't pull away in that one.
Did you have any thoughts on Hall's rushing yards? I know the Packers secondary is pretty solid. I figure like that'd probably be a spot that I'd be interested. I can't remember what the number was, but let's call it 23.5. Would that be something that you'd be interested in?
I got to dig into it a little bit more. I mean, we've only seen him, for one or two drives, that one game he started. I know he can move a little bit. It's always interesting with, rookie quarterbacks. Are they going to just try to run the system as it is, or are they going to improvise a little bit? So no real feeling for me quite yet. It's one I do have circled to dig into. But as of right now, I don't have, a great gut feeling either way.
Totally fair. All right, go ahead and give us your first prop.
Yeah, so I'm stick to player props. It's kind of, that's my wheelhouse. So
it's in the name.
It's in the name. Exactly. It's the brand. So my first and favorite prop that I've seen so far for week 17 is Rashee Rice, Chiefs receiver, over 5.5 receptions. I pulled it at -140 before FanDuel actually released it at -138. I know it's a little juicy, but it for me it's easily graded as my best play of the week so far. He's over in 5 straight games. He's seen at least, I believe, 9 targets in all of those games. Yeah. Look, we've seen the Chiefs offense. He's legitimately the only bright spot right now. I mean, Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as of right now, have not practiced at all this week. So even if 1 or 2 of them are available, they probably won't be able to lean on the run tremendously. Jerick McKinnon looks like he's on IR. He's out. Kadarius Toney, whom, we won't get into him, but he's also looking like he won't be playing. Look, Rice is not Tyreek Hill. I'm not trying to say Rashee Rice is or will be Tyreek Hill, but the Chiefs are using him in a way that they haven't used a receiver since Tyreek Hill left the team. And that's on those short, quick outs on the RPOs. I mean, look, Rice, he is a downfield threat, but his average depth of target right now, it's only 5 yards. Yeah. So, Mahomes, fake handoff, immediately getting it out to Rashee Rice. And we saw the Chiefs offensive line is struggling. So I do think we will see a lot of quick, short passes coming Rice's way. Kelsey, he could always blow up, but he really hasn't lived up to expectations this year. So I think Rice has kind of cemented himself as the number one option in this past game. And I like that to continue against the Bengals.
I love that you're on Rice. When I did the Fantasy Experts draft, so pretty much anybody doesn't know what that is, every major company sends a representative and we draft, but we have to go on like a show and talk about our picks. And I think I got ridiculed pretty hard about grabbing Rice. And I just pretty much told them like, it won't be right away, but we'll see Rice kind of take over and be the leader in targets on this team. And I'm glad it came to fruition. It was funny. Rashee Rice was like a 3.5 guy early in the season. And, now we're taking him for a much more and rightfully so. The target volume is there. So I'm glad to, because when you make those, when you do those fantasy drafts for the leagues, everyone thinks you're some kind of expert and we miss a lot more than we hit. So it was nice to hit on Rashee Rice. So I know you're gonna hit on this bet, or at least I hope so we can make some money. I'm gonna go to my second play. And this is my favorite one of the weekend, regardless of what show I'm on. I'm giving it on every single show that I'm doing for NFL. And it's Deebo Samuel. The numbers jumped up a little bit, but I'd still play it at this number. Deebo Samuel over 57.5 receiving yards against the Commanders. Commanders, like I said, 32nd in defensive DVOA. Deebo probably should have, could have, and was probably upset that he did not hit these in back-to-back games. Against the Cardinals, we know it was the Christian McCaffrey show. Christian McCaffrey put up unreal video game-like numbers. If you don't need Deebo Samuel, you're not going to throw him the ball. He had 4 catches, 48 yards. Against the Ravens, the 49ers didn't even have the ball enough for Deebo Samuel to even flirt with his line. His line opened up 3 points higher and 3 yards higher in this one than it did against the Ravens. And he still almost hit his line after his starting quarterback threw 4 interceptions and they were barely on the field. I'm going to play Deebo Samuel 100 plus. He's in another good situation, but against teams who have struggled against speed wide receivers and have struggled with explosive plays, he's played 3 of them. He's played against the Giants, he's played against the Seahawks, and he's played against the Eagles. Sorry. And in 3 out of the 4 games, he's gone for at least 100 yards. And the one that he didn't was against the Seahawks, where he still had 79 yards on 7 receptions. So it's another good spot against a team that gives up a lot of explosive plays to wide receivers. So for me, it's Deebo Samuel over 57.5 receiving yards.
Commanders can't guard anyone.
No,
they really can't. So, I mean, you sold me on that. You're absolutely right with the speed. They've struggled mightily against speed all season. Not to bring up Tyreek Hill again, and I'm not saying Deebo is Tyreek Hill, but we saw what Tyreek did against the Commanders. Deebo can have a similar type stat line where he easily reaches 100 within 3 quarters. I don't even think he needs 4 quarters to hit that, honestly. I think, he's 1 or 2 explosive plays away from hitting that for you. So yep. I like it a lot.
Yeah, go ahead and give us your next play.
All right, so this is one I did give out already as well, but I love it, and it's still very much playable. Nico Collins, Texans wide receiver, over, I believe the line right now is 59.5 receiving yards. I play it up to 61 personally. This is another ceiling spot. I mean, look, he's playing the Titans. We all know, if you've been betting NFL props for the past few years, you target your outside receivers against the Titans. They really struggle to guard receivers on the outside. So per FTN Fantasy, they're 31st in DVOA against wide receiver ones, which Nico definitely is, especially without Tank Dell. And they're 31st in DVOA against the deep pass, which Nico is very much a deep threat and a favorite of CJ Stroud, who was cleared to play and return this week. So, look, both Nico came back last week. He played limited snaps coming off his own injury, but he did get in full week of practice this week so far. So he looks like he's in line for significant snaps against the Titans. And look, he's hit this in 7-11 lines with Stroud in the full games he's played. So I like that to continue. It's a tougher matchup for the Texans to run, and they're not a very good running team anyway. It is a tougher matchup against tight ends. Dalton Schultz, that should drop him down a peg. Noah Brown, who's had his moments. He actually had 80 receiving yards with Case Keenum throwing the ball against the Titans. I think that's more Nico come Sunday. I love it. Ceiling spot. Think he could easily see 100 as well. I'm more of the conservative type, so I'm only going to play the straight line. Again, I got it at 56.5. I think you can still get it at 59.5.
Yeah, I ended up moving Nico into my starting lineup for the fantasy championship. Nice. It's great spot for him. He even did well in limited snaps last week, which you want to see, a guy who's still going to be effective being limited, because there's times where you have the guys who are on those limited snaps on the snap counts and they're pretty much ghosts. I like to call them just decoys out in the field, but no, he was effective in that. I'm going to go with my last play, and I'm also going to put this in the touchdown parlay. It was going to be an original play, but I want to get a little more juice on it. That's Josh Allen rushing touchdown. Looking at Josh Allen's numbers, this man has been absolutely ridiculous. He scored a rushing touchdown in all but 4 games so far this season. He scored a rushing touchdown, I think, in 7 of his last 8. At least 1 rushing touchdowns in 7 of the last 8. And guess what? The Buffalo Bills are 13.5-point favorites. If you guys have been fans of the show and watched the show, you guys know what we do when the Buffalo Bills are 13.5 or more point favorites. We hammer all the Bills player props, because that is absolutely when they feast, when they're at home playing against an inferior opponent. It's just the team that loves to absolutely wreck it. From an analytical standpoint, it also is important to note how good the Patriots' run defense is and how bad the Bills have been at running the ball inside the 7-yard line and in. They've been pretty dreadful. They even bring in Leonard Fournette to see if they can do this. Can't do it with Leonard Fournette. Can't do it with Latavius Murray. And so they said, screw it. We're going back to what we did last year. And it's Josh Allen. And they're running the ball with Josh Allen. They're not even dressing it up. It's QB sneak, QB draw, straight up, anything that is all quarterback. centric with him running the ball. You stop us if you want to. We're going to putting hat on hat, and Josh Allen's going to score. I'm excited for that touchdown. I added to the touchdown parlay.
Yeah, man, I like it. Look, I saw Leonard Fournette come in last week, and I've been a big fan of his for years, but he looked like a guy who hadn't played in the NFL all season. So whether it is him or Murray getting those snaps inside the 10, because we know they don't love to run James Cook inside the 10.
For some crazy reason, annoys me.
Yeah, hey, look, it helps this play because Allen is most definitely that guy, and he's been on a tear with these rushing touchdowns. I don't see that stopping. I mean, the Bills are still in a must-win position, so when they get down there, why not keep the ball in their best player's hands, and that's Allen.
Yep. Awesome. Go ahead and give us your last play, and then after you get that play, you can give your touchdown scorer as well.
Got you. All right. So I'll fire off both. So my third and final play, haven't given this one out yet. So this one's exclusive here. Gardner Minshew over 31.5 pass attempts. So you get that at DraftKings. I believe it was sitting at like minus 120 last time I checked. Look, the Colts play. So there's a few variables when you look at a pass attempt, a volume-based prop. The Colts play the second fastest pace in the NFL, which obviously helps any type of volume prop. And the Raiders allow, I believe they were in the top or the bottom 7, I should say, in offensive plays allowed per game. So it kind of works both ways in terms of the Colts being able to run a lot of plays here. And the Raiders, since Antonio Pierce has taken over, somewhat quietly, or maybe a little bit louder last week, they've been really dominant against the run. And for their last 6 games, they've ranked in the top 7 of DVOA, again, per FTN Fantasy, on a weekly basis. So they've been really strong. Jonathan Taylor, we know what he can do, but he hasn't really looked like Jonathan Taylor this season. He's been in and out of the lineup, hasn't been able to get going. Colts O-line is a little banged up. I see this as a game where Minshew is going to have to sling it around a little bit. The last 6 teams have thrown at least 32 passes against the Raiders in the Antonio Pierce era. And Minshew himself, I believe he's over in 6 of his 10 full starts. So look, whether they get it going on the ground or not, I personally don't see that happening, but I do think that in a game where the Colts are gunning for that playoff spot, Minshew is going to have to sling it around a little bit.
Yeah, the resurgence of this Raiders team kind of ruined. I had 3 units on Raiders futures spread out, and obviously those died with their last win last week, but it's no longer we're going to play the Raiders, run the ball all down their throats, and then continue just to chill. Now you have to play aggressively against them and continue to pass the ball because you're not going to be running for large chunks. So who's your touchdown scorer?
All right, touchdown score. So let's circle back to that Saints versus your Bucks game. I like Rachaad White, a little chalky, but still actually hovering around, I think, plus 100 that you could get on most books. So he scored a touchdown in 7 of the last 8 games. That's kind of the resurgence of the Bucks offense. He can do it in a multitude of ways, whether he's the goal line back, he could break a long run, which we've seen. He could break long passes, which we've seen of late. The Bucks love him. He's going to get 20 to 25 touches easily against the Saints. And I do think he's their first go-to guy when they get down inside the 10, inside the 5-yard line. And I also do think this game will be a little bit back and forth, kind of, on par what you were saying earlier, where, neither team is going to pull away from this. And I do think it'll be somewhat high scoring. Mike Evans getting pass interference in the red zone or in the end zone specifically would be a nice help here. I could see that happening, especially the Saints not having Marshawn Lattimore. But either way, I think White hits pay dirt for the 8th time in 9 games.
Yeah, it also helps that the Bucks are not a big QB sneak team.
Right.
I want to say this too, to kind of build on your play. Canales has kind of molded his play calling and Rachaad White's route tree. It's not your typical route tree of a running back who's just catching it in the flat. It's a little bit more advanced, which helps that play and helps those breakaway catches too, those 20-yard touchdown runs, because he has a more intricate route tree. My third touchdown scorer is Mr. Deebo Samuel. I talked about him in length. This man's finding the end zone, and he's appropriately priced. You can find him anywhere around minus 120 to plus 105. For those who don't know, we're going to put these touchdown scores together. It's plus 570. When we hit this, I will give out the winnings to one of the followers. To do that, you must absolutely follow us on Twitter, retweet the post, like, and comment. and the money's yours. We've given out money already so far this season. I'm excited. First, I want to thank you for joining the show. Anything that you want to plug or pub right now?
First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, at PropBet Guy. Post all my plays in the Action app, Action Network. So, hit me up there, follow me there. That's where all my plays go first with all my analyses. But no, other than that, follow for, hopefully some winning plays this Sunday.
Hey, I appreciate your time, and I'm going to give my quick plugs out. We just dropped an NBC Sports college football show. It's going to have the rest of the bowl games. We will have one more show for the national championship. We haven't determined which day that's going to be, but you can find that on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. And then most importantly, make sure you check out the rest of my plays on X at Mr. Brad Thomas or in the goldboys.com Discord chat. Thank you guys. Make sure you rate, like, and subscribe on your way out. Take care.